Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to the AFI project. And out of all the movies that I've covered on this segment, I think that this might be the one that I'm the most excited for. I've looked for an excuse to talk about this movie forever. Now I finally have it. It's 12 Angry Men. This was directed by Sidney Lumet. This was his directorial debut and would go on to have great success in the years that followed, and it starred Henry Fonda, J Cobb, Jack Warren, and many others. And this was based on the stage play of the same name. It tells the story of one man played by Henry Fonda who is serving his jury duty. But he is a part of a pretty big trial. Basically, it involves this kid who allegedly murdered his father. And it has come down to these 12 jurors. And, well, this is very much a life or death situation. If this kid is found guilty, then he will be sent to the electric chair. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. However, if the kid is found innocent, somehow or some way, then he is let go. It's literally an all or nothing type of deal. And when every juror is there, the lead juror, played by Martin Balsam, calls for a roll. 11 hands raised for guilty, and 1 hand raises not guilty, and that hand belongs to Henry Fonda. The word riveting is used a lot in film criticism, sometimes a tad too much in my opinion, but this is the most riveting movie that I have ever seen. My dad introduced me to this movie, and admittedly, he did kind of introduce me to it while I was kicking and screaming. I was just like, black and white movie about 12 guys doing jury duty. Like, what's up with this? And it takes a real man to admit when he was wrong, and I was wrong. My summarization of the plot really does not do this movie justice, so what can I possibly say about this movie that hasn't already been said? It was lauded upon its release. It's even more lauded now. And I just feel like I'm at a loss for words. But I'm going to try my hardest to talk about why I feel like this movie is one of the finest ever made. Firstly, let's talk about the cinematography. Because literally, there are only two scenes that take place outside of this juror's room. The first scene where we see the jury in the courthouse, and we see the one lone shot of the boy in question. And the last shot is afterwards, in which the verdict has been dropped, and I will not spoil that. The rest of the time, we are in there with these 12 jurors. It is the hottest day of the year. And even though this movie was released in 1957, and it is in black and white, you feel the heat radiating off of the screen. This movie makes you feel like you are literally a fly on the wall as you see these guys just bicker and argue what seemingly should be an open and shut case, but is unfortunately, or fortunately, a little more nuanced. The amount of visual storytelling and cinematography should really be studied and taught in film schools. For a movie that takes place in just one room, you get everything that is going on in little to no dialogue. And every piece of dialogue is meant to serve the story and fills the need of each and every character here. Because of this movie's reliance on mostly visual storytelling, there's a feeling of timelessness to this movie that very few movies have. Even though this movie, by all accounts, takes place in the present day, 1957, this movie feels like it could have been made today with, like, modern actors, and it would feel no different. I love learning and reading about the 1950s, but they definitely had a unique way of talking. They had their own slang and all that, just like we have in our modern time in the 70s and 80s and 90s and all of that. Which leads to some movies being very much products of their time. However, 12 Angry Men is not like that. It feels very modern, despite it being just over 60 years old. And I guess it's a good place to pivot into talking about the characters, starting with Henry Fonda. This is his very best performance, and you cannot change my mind on that. I love how the movie gives him the role of, he's the objector, but he's not the type who is like, this is a Latino boy. Like, think about what we're doing here. No, he doesn't go like the social justice route. He takes the route of, I don't know if he's guilty or not. All I'm saying is that it's possible. He says it's possible so much throughout this movie. They should create like a shirt like that as memorabilia. Everybody else thinks that this kid is guilty for various reasons. There are some who heard the case and are like, yeah, the kid is guilty. I heard the evidence. There are some who just want to get out of there and beat the traffic, including Jack Warren, who has tickets to a ball game. And then there are some with more nefarious means. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But every one of these jurors has a character, despite them having, no names. On IMDb, every character name just has Juror 1, 2, 3, and so on. They're not named like Chris, or Paul, or Scott, or John. It's literally Juror 1, 2, 3. And these characters are so layered that they feel like they could exist in real life. We're rooting for Henry Fonda from the very beginning, and, teeing off on every single point that is brought up is genuinely just among the most satisfying moments in film history. One of my favorite moments in movie history, as a matter of fact, is when the question gets broached of, how did this kid purchase this knife? This knife is unique. You can only buy it in, a certain place. And Henry Fonda just backs off. He lets the rest of the jurors bicker and argue about how this knife is precious and it's this rare and unique collector's item. And through all the din, Henry Fonda just reaches into his pocket and pulls out the knife and he sticks it in the table, and people are like, whoa, wait a minute, where did you buy that? And he just straight up says, I bought it at a pawn shop. And then the jurors are like, what? One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when Fonda tests the theory from the old man that he had to get up out of bed and walk with a limp to the door to find out what was going on. And he takes everything into account and does a Mythbusters-style test to prove or disprove what actually happened. And it's such a gratifying scene. He does the test. He's like, door, lock, time. And the jurors says the time, and it just blows the case wide open. I feel like this is very much the Henry Fonda show, but there are other actors to talk about, specifically Jack Warren. While I feel like people, when watching this movie, definitely feel like they could be Henry Fonda, in reality, I think we're all Jack Warren, because he pretty much wants nothing to do with this. He's just like, can we get the guilty verdict already? I got a game to catch. And the rest of the jurors give him crap for it, and we begrudgingly agree with the rest of the jurors, because this is a boy's life we're talking about here, and Warren is he's just taking the piss. And then there is juror number 3, played by Ed Begley, who is a racist. Now, I'm a person who believes that the word racist has been overused nowadays, and to the point where it has lost pretty much all its meaning and power. But Ed Begley's character is just a straight-up racist in this movie. He pretty much says that nothing good ever came from the slums, and that's why this kid is guilty. It's just scummy stuff. And literally, one of the jurors next to him says, I came from the slums. And by the way, that juror had nicer clothes than Ed Begley's character. Seeing that guy slam dunk on the other guy is just great. And then there is J Cobb, the patron saint of the old guy who screams every line. And God bless him for it. J Cobb believes this kid is guilty from nearly the very start, but not for any racial means like Ed Begley's character. He's one of those who's like, kids these days are good for nothing. He was pretty much the boomer of his time. To the point where significant points of evidence have been brought up to where, at the very least, you should be questioning why this kid was even arrested to begin with, and J Cobb still believes this kid is guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt. And Henry Fonda, he just is like, so you have chosen death, and he just goes in on this guy. Fonda just says to him, you'd like to put him in the chair yourself, wouldn't you? And J Cobb's like, you bet I would. And then Henry Fonda says my favorite line in the movie. Ever since you walked into this room, you've been acting like a self-appointed public avenger. You want to see this boy die not because you personally want it, not because of the facts. You're a sadist. And Cobb just lunges for Fonda's throat because Fonda has called him out, and Cobb just can do nothing about it other than just attack him. And Fonda knows it, and he doesn't be like, what are you gonna do about it? He's just like, yeah, I got you right where I want you. I could talk about this movie for days. It's one of my all-time favorites. It's one of the best of all time, in my opinion. Randomly, I was doing just research the other day, and I learned that there was actually a 1997 version of this movie starring Jack Lemmon, of all people. I had never heard of it. I had never even seen it. So, there's a part of me that really wants to watch it and review it. But I'll cross that bridge when I get there. At the end of the day, this movie is awesome. If you have not checked it out, you are doing yourself a disservice. Like, go watch it, like yesterday. But that is all from me, guys. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. Next time on the AFI Project, we're going to be taking a bit of a hard left in terms of tone and covering more of a comedic film. It's a film from Howard Hawks, and it is called Bringing Up Baby. But if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below, and if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way, when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam. I'll see you in the next one.